Dear brothers, it's about quality, not quantity.
So guys, it should be your conversation, the way you flow, your presence is enough for a woman to want to be around you, not how much money you spend.
Dear sisters, it's about knowing your value.
My sisters out there, don't be afraid to scare a guy off just because you have standards.
Dear brothers, dear sisters, it's time to come together.
Hey, welcome to another edition of DBDS Live. And it's going to be a great show. I'm your host, Mel Money, with my special co-host, my DBDS brand ambassador, Nicole. And listen, we have an eye-opening show for you today, which will be, diving in deep to help you recognize those toxic and red flags within your relationship. So how you feeling today, my sister?
Mel, I'm good. I actually have an announcement to make, if that's all right with you.
Please do.
So we have decided to add a segment to DBDS Live where you, the viewer, can ask for relationship advice live on the show, getting different perspectives from the entire panel. So we'll be holding a contest all week long and giving out a prize for the person who sends us the most creative name for this segment. So look out for details on the DBDS group page on Facebook today or tomorrow. Good luck.
Yes, and I think this is simply amazing. It's going to have you be more engaged, and we want our brothers and sisters out there to ask any sort of questions you have, so that way we can uplift and help each other. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that announcement, Nicole.
Of course.
And pretty much I'm feeling good out there because this show right here, I feel like the reality is, I know some may feel that lessons are just, meant to be learned the hard way. And that's not always the case, because besides our show, there are some resources out there to provide you with some guidance in order for you, to reevaluate your relationship and know when to put that line across the sand, so that way no one overcross them. And this simply means knowing who you are, what not to tolerate, and when to bail out the relationship. So with that being said, today's show is titled When to Leave. What do you think of this topic, Nicole?
It's a really good topic because a lot of the times people sometimes they don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So it's good to shed light on this and get some different perspectives.
Absolutely. We're going to shed light indeed, because whether a relationship is good or bad, we all have the free will to choose to remain in these particular relationships, and we also have to hold ourselves accountable. So before we pivot to our show, I just want to give a special shout out to Gina, Mo, Get Well Brother. A special shout out to, the family, my wife, April, my daughter, Ayana, Ava. Shout out to Nicole's family, Jess family, the whole DBDS family, the whole wide world. I just want to thank you and appreciate you guys for rocking with us. And with that being said, I'm ready to bring our first guest into the studio.
Let's bring them on in.
Woo. So the first one that we are bringing into the studio today is my sister, Brion. Yes.
Hey, everybody.
Yes.
Nice to finally meet you all. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're doing
We're
great.
Good.
So welcome to DBDS Live. Tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and why you're on the show today.
My name is Brion Edwards, and if you're looking to follow me on Facebook after the show today, it's at Brion Edwards. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and I'm on here to share some of the knowledge that I learned from my adolescent years and growing up. So I hope that I can inspire some of you.
Amazing.
I love it. And you're definitely an inspiration. Thank you for appearing on the show. And
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And now it's time to bring in, this is DBDS royalty right here.
Drum roll.
My sister, Ebony. Hey.
How's everybody?
Right.
Doing good.
We're doing great. Truly blessed. So we have some new viewers. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, why you're on the show today, and where you're from.
I'm Ebony from Woodbridge, Virginia. I'm on the show today just to share my personal advice, and hopefully it's able to help someone out there to, make better decisions on when to leave.
Absolutely. So, I believe this is such a great topic for our brothers and sisters out there, because sometimes we allow love alone to be used as an excuse to remain in bad or toxic relationships, not realizing the energy projected off our significant other or the person we're with can lower our self-esteem, or sometimes we could view dysfunctional relationship as normal. For example, this can stem from childhood, which can affect our dating life as we get older, or the people that surrounds us that influence us and they embrace dysfunctional or bad behavior. And that's why I feel like these kinds of conversations are needed to shed some light on how your partnership is affecting your well-being and what signs to pay attention to before it gets worse. But before we dive deep into this topic, we have a DBDS Anonymous section where people post their thoughts, their issues, and they look for us to help them along their journey. So I'll have my sister Nicole read the letter. Take it away, Nicole.
Of course, this is kind of a long one, so get comfortable, guys.
Oh, yeah.
So our DBDS sister says, "Hello, DBDS family. I've been with my husband for 4 years, married 3, and we are on the verge of a divorce, yet trying to save our marriage. A little backstory. We got married 6 months after we started dating. I am 9 years older and have a 13-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. We started having intimacy and communication issues 3 months after getting married. I grew silent and distant, and he followed suit. There were lots of incidents of him manhandling me in the first year. The first time he bear hugged me, he bear hugged me to keep me from leaving during an argument and threw my daughter to the ground when she tried to help me. The second time, he pinned me down on the bed because I refused to talk to him. There was one time I threw the remote control at his head, which caused him to bleed because he ignored my problem, just to name a few examples. He started sleeping on the couch instead of the bed with me for about a year, and our sex life went completely non-existent, except for birthday sex on our birthdays. We stopped talking to each other, and I became cold, distant, bitter, and angry. A year ago, he started having an emotional affair with the woman he worked with. I found out, got into a fight with her, and told her to leave my man alone. He immediately stopped talking to her outside of work, and things got a little better between us. Fast forward to me becoming disabled and having to quit work last fall. He now resents me for not being able to work. He says on a consistent basis that I am a burden, our sex is trash, and he'd rather masturbate. He also mentioned that he's not attracted to me anymore and regrets being with me. He doesn't touch me the same as when we first met, and even though we are married, I feel alone at times. My daughter despises him. However, I refuse to give up on us, and deep down, I know he still loves me. I believe he's behaving this way due to stress at work, which he works 70+ hours a week. I love him deeply, and when we took our vows, it was for better or worse. But I'm tired of feeling unwanted and rejected. What steps can I do to save our marriage?"
Well, wow. Thank you, sister, for your letter. We greatly appreciate it. You know, it takes courage to open up, and don't worry, we have a panel of knowledgeable people with great wisdom that can help you in your situation. So I'm coming to my sister Brion. What advice do you have for this sister? How can we help her?
I mean, that was like a mouthful and some. My first advice I would give to you was you needed to leave earlier. He didn't deserve to have a chance to change your name nor get to know you or your child. Like for me, and I don't even have a child at all, period. But my child would be my sacred place. And no man, no woman, or anybody in that nature will be able to make my child feel uncomfortable where I'm supposed to be her comfort. Your disability doesn't define who you are. So I want you to understand that hurt people hurt people. And when he bled on you the first time, you shouldn't have given him multiple opportunities to do the same, because it wasn't going to do anything but get worse. So when you spoke on better or for worse, you being diagnosed with a new disability is part of that better or for worse. And when he made you feel less than, you were supposed to respect yourself more than, and said, now at this point, it's time for me to walk away, because it's not my fault that I don't have the same abilities that I once had when we got married. But as my husband, it was your job to make sure that I felt secure in myself as a woman. And he didn't do that. Your child is worth more than watching you go through the things that you went through, which is basically showing her that it's acceptable to accept this from anyone. And it's not. It's not okay. Like him even pushing you out the way to push her to the ground. No way. No way. No way, no how. But I'm going to give the other lady a chance to speak. And if you would like to connect with me on Facebook, you're more than welcome. Because as I stated, that situation is deeper than this hour show that we'll have to talk.
True.
Thank you so much. Very powerful. Sometimes you have to take yourself out of the equation. Very well said, Brion. I'm coming to my sister, Ebony. What advice do you have for this sister? How can we help her?
There was a few things. Now, she said that they were together for 6 months prior to them being married, and then they started having issues 3 months after being married, which means they had only been together for 9 months. Initially, when all of this started happening, I would have personally suggested to get some type of counseling then, because you all really didn't have enough time to really know each other on the deep level that you should be in a marriage with someone. And then as the letter got on, it started becoming to where there was a physical abuse between her and him, and she to him as well. And then the daughter got into the mix of it. So that was another major red flag. Anytime things start becoming physically, emotionally, mentally abusing, it's always a time for you all to sit down and be able to communicate. If you guys can't do it within each other, then you need to find someone who will be able to mediate with that. So there's a lot of red flags in here, a lot of toxic traits, and it really boils down to, and another thing that I noticed in the letters, she kept saying, what can she do? And it seems like, from what I'm seeing in the letter, he's sleeping on the couch. He's having the emotional affair. Initially, I'm not sure how it happened, but he is the one who seems to be putting his hands on her more, even though she did throw the remote, which was also bad. But, it doesn't seem that he really wants to fix things, and she said that we're trying to work on it. What steps have you taken to try to work on it? Because it seems like she's trying to hold on to somebody who doesn't want her anymore. Personally, for me, that's what I'm seeing in the letter. He's not attracted to her anymore. It's like, what is she holding on to?
Wow. Very good question. Very insightful what you stated. And I totally agree. What are you hanging on to? I'm coming to my sister, Nicole. What advice you have for our sister? How can we help her?
Well, to my DBDS sister, thank you so much for writing in. It takes a lot of courage to do so. There's so many things to address. So typically, the first 6 months to a year of a marriage is referred to as the honeymoon phase, right? Sex is mind-blowing. A couple is absolutely inseparable and infatuated with each other. But in your marriage, within 3 short months, the communication stops, the intimacy stops, and it sounds like you both just stopped trying. And then a year in, the physical abuse begins. In the midst of all of this toxic dysfunction, there's a little girl watching. A little girl who wants to protect her mother, and she's being put in harm's way. I said it before, and I'll say it again. You are setting the standard for what your daughter sees as normal. You have to ask yourself, is this what you want for her? Unfortunately, you cannot fix this on your own. If he's not willing to work towards repairing this marriage with you, it's time to go. And if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your daughter.
Very well said. Thank you for that insightful advice for our sister. And I just want to state that, anonymous sister, trust, which is one of the main components before a relationship flourish, begins as a choice. And that's an act of faith based on how that person treats you. And that's the phase that Nicole described eloquently about the whole honeymoon phase. That's when you can pay attention to the red flags as well as the green flags. And as the person proves to be trustworthy over time, more confidence can be given to them. And when that occurs, you can start to relax more with that person or your partner. I would say even a certain little amount of blind confidence should be embraced. However, usually takes one moment of distrust to undo everything for everything to come completely down. And I'm afraid to say, just like the rest of my intelligent sister stated, that your relationship is now built on, built with dysfunctional bricks, because once communication breaks down and if solutions are not discussed, then it will decrease the emotional intimacy. Whether it's non-verbally, as you mentioned, that you were cold and distant, or verbally, in which he expressed that he sees you as a burden or a liability instead of someone who is an investment in a relationship. And from my perspective, pushing your daughter down, physical confrontations are always, in my view, non-negotiable. But I also understand that you have this emotional attachment, and that's not a connection to your husband. I hate to say it, it's not a connection, because an emotional attachment with no connection, as it's obvious that you're pouring your time, energy, and effort into a broken relationship, whereas a connection is where both individuals have a mutual understanding and respect for each other. So that creates solutions more than problems. So since you have this emotional attachment, I believe, and I don't think you mentioned this in the letter, to reach out to a marriage counseling. That should be your top priority. And that should be communicated to your husband as well, to make sure that you can see, personally, I think you should bail out, but to see where this can head to, because his response will determine whether this relationship can possibly be saved or whether you're going in the wrong direction. So again, thank you for your letter. Before we pivot to our show, we have some comments up here. First one. Okay.
All right. Facebook user says, the excuses and physical abuse to me, proof they need to part ways. Counseling, but only to be civil, not to stay married.
Okay.
Good point.
Thank you, my sister. Next comment.
And Daily, hey girl.
Hey.
Says, all right, now Nicole, you got your girls today. Hey. And then
hey.
I do. Good panel, right?
You can't forget the brother, All right. I'll go to the next comment.
And then Daily again says, well said, y'all. I didn't get a chance to hear the story at the beginning, but I did come in when Miss Edwards was talking. It sounds very dysfunctional, and I pray for you, hon.
Man, prayers do wonder. And hopefully this will help you along your journey. So we are going to go ahead and pivot to our show. And the show, again, is based on when should we leave? So the first subtopic that we're going to touch on today, that I believe you should know when to leave, is reoccurring infidelity. Man, you see this brother right here, he's in the cheating booth, and he's like, hey, man, I hope she don't catch me, So I'm going to go ahead and size this up.
Trapped in the closet, for real.
I'm sorry.
Okay, let me take this brother off the screen. All right.
Please, for God's love.
First off, cheating is not a mistake; it's a choice.
Amen.
And I feel like so many people get caught up in that infidelity hurricane, thinking it won't blow the relationship away. However, the cornerstone to a healthy relationship is trust. And if your significant other refuse or don't possess to practice self-discipline or remain faithful in your relationship, then that is time to bail out. So I'm coming to my sister Ebony. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
Ooh, well, you know how I feel about that one, Belle. When it comes down to cheating, and infidelity, understand that we are all human. We all make mistakes, whether it's past, present, but at the first sign of there being some type of cheating, if you all need to have a serious discussion. Like when I talk about a serious discussion, it's a serious sit down to, hey, what's going on? Why did this happen? Can it be corrected? And if not, then it's definitely time to go separate ways. I know a lot of the times people may lie. And for me in the past, they'll be like, oh, you're the only one. I'll give you fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. It ain't going to happen. So it comes down to the fact of some people cheat because of themselves. It's never because of the other person of why somebody is cheating. It's something that is buried within themselves. So if they're not willing to do the work to be able to fix and correct that, then it's up to the other person to be able to have that self-love and say, hey, I love myself enough to know that I deserve better than this. And I'm not, the way people treat you, people only treat you the way you allow them to treat you. so they know that, hey, she's not going to be standing here for it. She's not going to tolerate it. Then maybe he'll have that in the back of his mind before he does it again, because like I said, that's something that it comes to the point to where I love myself enough that I'm not going to let somebody treat me any less than I'm going to treat myself, or any less than I feel I deserve. You know what I mean? Because I would be good by myself. I'll give myself that self-love, and you know what I mean? We'll keep it moving. But when it comes down to infidelity, it's like, nah, because I keep it 100. I'm sorry, that's just me. So as soon as I feel you're being shady, hiding things, deleting things, or having any type of infidelity, and I can't trust you, then what are we working on? Because trust is the foundation. If I can't trust you, I can't be with somebody if I can't trust you. That's just me. But that's how it should be for everybody. Because if you can't trust your partner, as soon as you hear something, you start, having those insecurities and those doubts, and it's unhealthy. So for you to stay in that healthy relationship and keep yourself in your own safe mental place, infidelity is a no-no.
Whew, very well said. Yeah. People fail to realize is that when you cheat, you're exposing your significant other. You can bring your significant other a disease or a sexually transmitted energy,
right?
Evil energy. There's so many different variables. I'm coming to my sister Brion. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
Infidelity for me is like taking another part of the person you included in that soul and sharing it with one else without them even knowing. I've been in that type of situation before, and I believe in energy transferring. So like it was stated multiple times since we've been on here, talking with your partner, communication is a must. For me, I can say this honestly. I have talked about it once, and I said, I wasn't going to allow it again and again. Like it was stated, love can make us do some crazy things. But what can we do crazy enough to respect ourselves? And that's to leave. I gave a person another chance to do the same thing. And it scarred me. It made me feel as though I didn't have what it took, or I wasn't good enough when I was everything that I needed for myself, and probably a little bit too much for that person. When they don't realize what they have in front of them, a lot of the times they make their mistakes off of what they were taught in their childhood. And like I said, we just have to get more comfortable with knowing when to leave. It should only take one time in a conversation when dealing with infidelity, or just come to one another and say, it's time, it's time for us to part ways, because I can't change this, and there's nothing that you're doing wrong, but I don't want to keep hurting you.
I know there's poor choices out there, but I wholeheartedly believe in healthy boundaries in a relationship. I'm coming to my sister Nicole. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
I'm going to piggyback off of you, Mel. Here's the thing about cheating. It is not an accident. It is a conscious decision. I hate when people say that, it was an accident. I fell into some, even to get medical with it. Adults, 25 and over, we think with our prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain that responds to situations with good judgment and awareness of consequences. That's a choice. So this is basically our rationality. Now, we do all make mistakes and do things that we regret. But what speaks volumes is changed behavior and someone who puts in the effort into changing. The problem comes in when the apology and or regret is disingenuine. The person that cheated will say or do anything just to get you off their back, and falls into repeating the cycle over and over again without regard for how you feel or addressing the underlying issues. Like both the ladies said, if it's something from your past or childhood trauma, instead of addressing that, they just, mask it with apologies and flowers and whatever it may be. So this is why setting boundaries is so important and communicating your non-negotiables in the beginning. Every time you forgive bad behavior with just an apology and nothing else, it shows what you'll tolerate. When we don't set and follow our own standards, you give a person permission to mistreat you.
Wow. Studio down today. Absolutely. People like Ebony State, man, you got to allow it to happen. So my whole thoughts is, from a man's perspective, when a woman can see a man's cheating behavior pattern and she forgives him over and over again, even though if she meets her emotional pain threshold, then she's no longer a victim. She's simply a volunteer because she's enabling that toxic behavior. And this is why personal boundaries, as well as transparent communication, should be a defining factor when it comes to a relationship. So both parties understand that, it's not a sure chance that the relationship cannot continue on a romantic basis if you keep on doing this on a regular basis. And this is where, as Ebony stated, where the self-love is important, because you need that strength from within to rebound from a failed relationship, to use that time to self-reflect, I would say, to prepare and to position yourself for the right man to come into your life. Another hiccup I just want to point out is, just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you're obligated to take them back. And
Right.
many of especially our sisters out there, sisters are so naturally nurturing and emotional. You tend to fall into that trap to be like, hey, I'll forgive them. Let me take them back. Let me take them back. And it's the same thing over and over again. And this is where I feel like love alone sometimes can overshadow the disrespectful nature of a person who claims to be in love with you. Because the reality is, the best apology is always change behavior. And if they refuse to respect your relationship contract by pretending to be a free agent just to smash some chocolate chip cookies all over the place, then it's time to suppress your emotion to disengage from that particular person. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and pivot to our next topic. And the next topic that we're going to touch base on is, and this is very important, no drive or ambition, all talk and no action. Listen, I believe a relationship should be a partnership, not where you got to drag the other person up. So let me just break this down. So fortunately, if a man or woman isn't doing all that they can do to make themselves valuable to the marketplace, then it makes them, to me, a liability where they rely on you 100% of the time, which can slow down the progression within your relationship. And that within itself can deplete your energy, your time, as well as your effort with someone that has a lazy mentality or possessing like an entitlement attitude. So I'm coming to my sister Brion. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
I haven't had the pleasure of dealing with anyone that was necessarily lazy. So for me, I feel like if I can get out here and get myself together and put all my accoutrements on in order for me to get out here to save the day, I say, anybody should be able to. It's not easy having to get up daily and drag yourself around because you have lack of movement every day. But just because I have lack of movement don't mean that I have lack of drive. My drive is everything. My ambition is even more. So you are what you give. And like I said again, because I'm in a wheelchair, I have had the pleasure of dealing with those that already have, that drive and that ambition. So if I was to try to navigate in a relationship with someone that don't have a drive, I would feel some type of way because everybody's looking at me like, you're the one that's supposed to be sitting down doing nothing. How are you with somebody and you're applying more pressure than them? So when the pressure isn't reciprocated, at that point, I have to leave. Because I need those moments where I can lay down and know what it's like to be lazy, considering the fact that I move on a daily basis.
Very well said. My thing is, as I mentioned, with the right man or the right woman, they're not going to have you do everything on their own. That's not a true partnership. I'm coming to my sister Ebony. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
All talk, no action. I'm a big believer that your actions are always going to speak louder than your words. It's easy for people to just say things, whether they mean it or maybe they may not mean it, but their actions are always going to show what their true character is. So it's really important. And also, it's when you trust when you're able to start trusting people's actions and seeing their actions, it allows you to build a deeper level of trust with somebody as well. Because if someone is always saying, oh, I'm going to do this, and they don't ever do it, it's like, how am I supposed to trust that person? How am I supposed to trust your word? So you being able to say what you mean and mean what you say and standing on your word is definitely a big thing that you need to be doing, because I'm not able to rely on your word and your lack of drive, and you're not really, striving to, not only help me or the household, but to help yourself, it's going to start time to reevaluate things.
Very well said. People that say that they're about to do something, I got a phrase. I call them, I'm about to brothers. I'm the about to sisters. Because they always say, like, I'm about to, but nothing happens. I'm about to. I'm coming to my sister Nicole. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
Well, first, how many of us are 70s babies and remember the saying in the 80s, word is bond, son? Like, what happened to that?
Well, that just told me how old you were.
So I heard. Anyway. So, goodness, this frustrates me to high heaven. It actually reminds me of the scene from Hustle and Flow where Anthony Anderson's character, Key, he says, and I'll paraphrase, there's two types of people, those that talk the talk and those that walk the walk. People who walk the walk sometimes talk, but most of the times they don't talk at all because they walk in. Now, those who talk the talk, when it comes time for them to walk, you know what they do?
Back out.
They talk people like me into walking for them. And that's what this whole topic reminds me of. People who have no goals or aspirations in life tend to be those talkers. They're either satisfied with the bare minimum because they've given up, or they simply have no desire to excel and they're comfortable being dormant. Or they are manipulative and they get other people to do things for them. I'll call that the pimp mentality. So when you get into a relationship with a person like this, they'll promise you the world. But what you fail to realize is this amazing world they promised you is going to be built from the sweat of your brow while they sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor. The key component in any successful relationship is growth. Without growth, what are you? Dead, stagnant. Each person in a relationship should be becoming a better version of themselves while simultaneously building each other up. If you're in a situation where you're the only one trying to grow, pack your bags.
From all the panelists, they killed that segment. I mean, you don't want to moocher or leecher, right? I mean, from a man's perspective, again, I believe a lot of sisters, find themselves being a man's savior instead of being his supporter. And to me, that's not a balanced relationship. That's a mother and child relationship where you don't have a man with leadership capabilities. You have more of an adopted son in which you play a surrogate mother and not his woman. And, a lot of sisters tend to fall into that trap of dating brothers who are not productive, jobless. And these are the sisters who love the idea of being the fixer upper, because they somehow believe that, hey, all this brother needs is a woman's touch, and he's straight. However, from my perspective, I believe a man should be productive. He should have a purpose in life. These are the things that he should be committed to first before he's committed to a relationship. And I feel like these components is what drives his character become a better man. Because the last thing I just want to point out is when you become a man's savior and accept the mother and child relationship, you pretty much become his safety net. You become his crutch. You become his his cash machine and his surrogate mother for him to run to anytime life gets hard or when he loses his way. And I feel like that's a bad idea to go into a relationship to that magnitude, because what's worse is having a man that can't and won't even help himself. So think about that. So my people, we are going to take a quick commercial break. This is DBDS Live. Sit tight. We'll be right back.
Are you single? Do you know about DBDSsingles.com? Are you ready to meet a quality man or classy woman? The DBDS brothers want you to know that love and loyalty still exists. So if you're ready to meet relationship-ready people, sign up today at DBDSsingles.com. Let's make love and loyalty dope again.
All right, my peoples, welcome back to DBDS Live. I'm here with my sister, Ebony, my sister, Brion, my sister, Nicole. And listen, we've been chopping it up, dropping some jewels. And today's topic is when to leave. Simple, when to leave. Before we continue the show, I have a few shout outs I'd like to give to the audience. I'd like to give a shout out to Tierra. She just came in. Miss Brackett, my sister, Kathy, my brother, Maurice. What's up, Maurice? Jamal Lee. My brother Vince, thank you for participating, brother. My brother Jeff, Keish Marie Hampton, thank you so much. My brother Ronald, Nay Lucky, Tania, we need you back on the show, definitely. Nikisha, my girl Tess, my girl Ashley, my girl Shauna, Lynn, Tanya, Toya, Lily Lopez. Oh, that's a hot name, Lily Lopez. Like right. That. My sister Lynette. And of course, my beautiful queen, April. Thank you for watching, baby.
Hey, April.
And listen, too many names. So too many names to mention. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. So we're going to continue to our next subtopic. And the next one that we're going to touch on is threats and ultimatums. Man, this right here screams red alert that your ass should bail out the relationship. So I'm going to go ahead and size this up. My thing is that when your partner or significant other or the person you are dating is using these tactics or threatens to leave the relationship due to disagreements, it's nothing more short of manipulation, because it's more clear that they're interested in getting their way with you than solving any relationship issues. And a relationship without any possible solutions should be a clear indicator to get out before it gets worse. So I'm coming to my sister, Ebony. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
My thoughts are, I'm going to back you right on up. I believe that ultimatums are definitely a form of manipulation. It's definitely a power play. Anytime that threats and ultimatums are starting to be made, it's time to walk away, because, you know, you shouldn't be having to, like, if this reminds me of being a child, you know, it's like, oh no, I don't want you to play with my toy, you know, unless you do this for me. If you're willing to do this for me, then, you know, then I'll let you do this. And it's just, it's childish. It's manipulative. It's nothing ever good comes out of an ultimatum. So choose yourself and walk away.
Absolutely. Very well said, man. Thing is that when you come across people and they have these little short disagreements, oh, I'm leaving, I'm out the door, you know, then how can he think that so quick about you? I'm coming to my sister, Brion. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
I'm going to have to back both of you up like you already stated. But as far as from me personally, if we can't have an issue without a discussion, that has to lead into verbal abuse or manipulation. as we stated before, that's a sign that we need to get out. Because once it gets to the verbal abuse, it leads straight into physical. And we have to be willing to, like I stated before, love ourselves first. Start repeating to yourself daily, I choose me, in spite of the toxic situation, because I deserve better. You can't worry about what that person is telling you that they need from you, because if they needed it from you, that will be what they're seeking, and not all the other bad behaviors, or you even accepting the bad behavior. It's unacceptable. So I say, like I said, get out and choose you.
Wow, very well said, my sister. And the thing is that you can't control their actions, but you can't control your reactions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming to my sister Nicole. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
An ultimatum is nothing more than a threat with consequences. Parents often use this tactic with children, right? If you don't pick up your toys, I'm going to throw them away. Essentially, if you don't do this, blank, I'm going to do blank. So in relationships, ultimatums are extremely destructive because they make your partner feel trapped and you force them to take action. And the problem with this is we shouldn't want to force anybody to do anything, because when they do it, it won't be genuine. And at some point, they'll begin to resent you. This is a situation that produces a winner and a loser. People who want everything their way all of the time should just consider remaining single until they realize that compromise and consideration for another person's needs is required in a healthy relationship, right? So also, don't confuse ultimatums with assertive communication. An ultimatum is a demand, whereas assertive communication is the ability to express positive and negative feelings in an open, honest, and direct way. Two totally different things.
Right, man. Again, Ebony, Brion, and Nicole are killing it today.
Down.
I mean, these are the type of relationships that represents no stability, which means that it can collapse at any moment. Because the reality is, a man or a woman who can clearly communicate that they can easily walk away from you without a second thought simply means your relationship is at the bottom of the pit. Like, it's on a very low priority list, And when this method is used on a consistent basis with that particular partner, it shows that they only care about themselves. In fact, we're calling this a relationship. It's no longer a relationship. It's a dictatorship when this tactic is used multiple times to keep you in line or for that person to stay in control. And you notice I use the word control for the men point of view. That's not leading. That's controlling behavior. Because truthfully, you should never make someone your world when they clearly make you an option. You should never feel like you have to walk on eggshells to express your needs and desires within a relationship, even if it's something that you both disagree with, because sticking around and accepting this sort of behavior, I believe, is one of the fastest way to deplete your self-esteem. All right. So we're going to go ahead and pivot to our next subtopic. And wow, we're doing good today. And the next subtopic is
get through them all.
Wow. All right. When to leave, man. Disrespect and minimum reciprocation. I don't know, man. This brother is like, man, we just came from the comedy show. She was like, man, you better get back in there. We pay tickets, So I'm going to go ahead and size this up. My thing is that the first law of physics states that for every action, there's a equal or greater reaction. And that just simply means that, if you carry yourself with respect, then people will treat you with respect because you have, these personal relationship principles, standards, and expectations from your partner to build a healthy relationship. However, if your partner demonstrates little to no effort and lacks respect towards the relationship, then it's a huge red flag that it's time to bail out. So I'm coming to my sister, Brion. What are your thoughts on this topic right here?
Disrespect. And like you said, the reciprocating the same energy. I'm big on respect. So I can't even begin to fathom the disrespect one can feel. Now, yes, I'll be transparent with you guys. I was in a long-term relationship with someone, and the same behavior that I see my dad do to my mom, I did it to that next person. Um, and I feel like it's not the amount of time that I did it and made a change. It's the fact that I did it to begin with. That's just another way of breaking the trust and continuing to cause the foundation to be rocky, where the house is no longer going to be able to stand. Like I said, I did it in my relationship, and it's totally unfair and totally uncalled for. So if you're big on communication, I say stick to it. Stick to it and set the tone. When you set the tone, it allows a person to understand exactly what it is that you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. And if you feel strongly in, like I said, being respected over disrespect, learn when to, remove yourself from that conversation and then try to revise, at a later time and let that, other person know, like, I didn't feel comfortable continuing that conversation with you because it had began to get disrespectful. And I did not want to reciprocate the same energy because it wasn't going to lead into anything but us being more toxic to one another or our behavior beginning to be physical.
Very well said, my sister, and appreciate you sharing your vulnerability. Actually, I don't even say it's a vulnerability. I think it takes strength to self-reflect and to be open. So thank you again. I'm coming to my sister Ebony. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
It's gonna be the same as it usually is. When it comes down to disrespect, I don't believe that you can really, when you love somebody and you truly love that person, you don't cross that line of disrespecting them. You know what I mean? And if you do cross that line, maybe you need to reevaluate your version, what you feel is to be love, because real love, you don't disrespect each other. So as soon as you start disrespecting me, it's going to make me really reevaluate if the way that I love you, because I haven't disrespected you. So the way I love you, if you're not able to reciprocate that back to me, then it's automatically be time to go. Disrespect, abuse, those are two things that it's a no tolerate zone for me. So, and then when it comes down to reciprocation, when you have that self-love and you know how you want to be treated, you're not going to allow someone to not be able to give back to you. To then you're pouring into this other person, you're pouring and pouring and pouring into their cup, and they're never pouring back into yours. So their cup is full and they're happy and they got all they need, and your cup's over here empty and you're dry and you're not being loved properly. So it comes down to respecting yourself, knowing what you deserve, and making sure that no one is treating you less than that. And if they are, it's time to go.
Absolutely. Very well said. And I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm coming to my sister, Nicole. What are your thoughts on this particular topic?
I think when most of us think about disrespect in a relationship, we think of worst case scenarios like domestic violence, cheating, calling each other names, so on and so forth. But there are so many little ways to be disrespectful. And these small things will snowball and turn into bigger things. For example, when someone doesn't listen to you or intentionally tunes you out, like the guy in the picture, he's like, la, 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 I don't want to hear what you have to say. Giving the silent treatment, like that seems really minimal, but that could be a big thing, right? Somebody that's refusing to communicate. Sly criticism, little white lies, not making you a priority. I mean, these are all things that seem little that over time can snowball. So even in the healthiest and happiest of relationships, there will be moments where one or both partners feel disrespected. And that in itself doesn't have to be a deal breaker. What really matters is when those moments arise, whether or not you feel comfortable having an open, honest discussion with your partner about how you feel. If you can't communicate with each other, it's definitely not going anywhere. Communication is key. Communication is non-existent. You should be too.
Man, very well said. And I'm just going to piggyback off you, Nicole. In our book, Dear Brothers, Dear Sisters, Listen Up, we have this concept described as the tennis theory, in which a healthy relationship demonstrates when you serve that ball across the net, which represents, effort, love, time, energy towards your significant other or the person you're dating, and they gladly hit the ball back, which, they do it with the same or greater force in order to match your love. And it's sort of like a even balanced match when you keep on hitting the ball across the net. And, I think that demonstrates a healthy relationship. But when you have someone that's disrespectful or does not reciprocate, you may come across someone that's throw the tennis racket down and refuse to hit the ball back. And guess what? You're going to be on the opposite end, hitting the ball with no one to give you some sort of feedback or to counteract and show you how much they care about you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find yourself in that front, all you're doing is lowering your self-esteem, lowering your worth and your value when you allow yourself to remain in that sort of relationship. Because, healthy relationships are based on mutual respect. It should be the cornerstone for any relationship. So if you come across someone that's the complete opposite based on what we stated to you, then that's a red alert to bail out.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, we're going to take one last commercial break. That's right. It's time for our Jerry Springer moment. And when we come back, we'll give the people our final take on the show. This is DBDS Live. Sit tight, my peoples.
If you would like to learn how to establish and maintain long-term meaningful relationships, join DBDS University today. You will learn about interpersonal relationships, first date tips, the relationship zones, emotional intelligence, and more.
I want to say thank you to my big brothers, Mel and Mo, for creating the DBDS University with the live, the book, the website. It's helped me so much grow as an individual.
Welcome back to DBDS Live. All the sisters like, whoa.
Brion, you got scared.
Oh, no. I was pushing the button on the screen.
My bad.
I was reading.
Okay. My bad.
Why you do that to us, Mel?
Right?
My bad. So I'm here with my sister, Ebony. My sister, Brion. Hey, we love to have fun here. We love to have fun. And my sister, Nicole, listen, we've been chopping it up and everything, dropping knowledge based on when to leave bad relationship. And if you missed this show, don't worry. This will be on replay throughout the week. It'll be available on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, DBDS Live. So now it's about that time to share our final thoughts. That's right, the Jerry Springer moment. And the first one I'm coming to is my sister, Ebony. What are your final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts are going to be that it's never going to be easy to leave. Sometimes walking away is literally going to be the absolute hardest thing that you have ever had to do. But there are times where it is necessary. Maybe later on down the line, you all come back together, maybe not. But when you're being disrespected, when things aren't being reciprocated, when you aren't being fulfilled or he isn't being fulfilled, there are times where you have to walk away. And if you really love that person, you will walk away from that person. And, forgiveness, and how Mel said earlier, just forgive them. Forgive them. And it's not only just for them, it's for yourself. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for that other person. So if it comes down to it and it's time to walk away, It's going to be hard, but once again, love yourself and forgive that person and move forward. You know, greater things are ahead.
Thank you, my sister, for those final thoughts. Coming to my sister Brion, what are your final thoughts for today's show?
My final thoughts for today's show is to love yourself first. And another thing that I want to hit on that has literally been heavy on my heart since we started. Just because a relationship start, toxic, or later on down the line get toxic, that doesn't mean that you won't have that chance to revise that relationship. Sometimes you have to leave a person for growth reasons and not just for the trash. Like I said, there may be things that were stemming from your adolescent years that you didn't get the proper knowledge on. And sometimes I feel like we spend so much time fighting our significant others for, things that aren't necessarily their fault, but things that they don't have knowledge on that we simply do. Like I said, sometimes you have to leave in order to allow the other person to grow. In order to grow, you have to let them go, and that's something that I learned. Like I said, if you want to grow, let them go, and choose yourself first. If there's any other powerful things that you guys would like to read or hear from, like I said before, you are more than welcome to send me a friend request on Facebook at Brion Edwards. And I also specialize in hair growth oil. So if you know anyone that's looking for any hair growth oil, skin oil, or anything in that nature, my Facebook page is open.
Very well said. And make sure you support her. Got to support each other, right? I mean, if you have a product that can cover my gray hair, I'm all in, Brion.
Leave the gray hairs alone from all
that
of
is
them.
fine. Salt and
Wow.
pepper is
All
fine.
right.
I'm sure your wife loves it.
What do you? Thank you, my sister. What are your final thoughts for today's show, Nicole?
So before giving my closing thoughts, I want to thank this incredible panel. Brion and Ebony, you two are wise way beyond your years. It's been a great privilege meeting you both. To all my DBDS brothers and sisters, we have to start seeing the value in ourselves. Think of relationships as an investment. Let's say you put your life savings into the stock market. You notice that one particular stock is hemorrhaging money every week. What do? You reallocate your funds to a more suitable stock that adds value to your portfolio, right? You wouldn't keep your money in a stock that slowly depletes your account because you hope it will start bringing value, right? So when someone truly loves you, you don't have to dig deep or search, you don't have to sift through your past to find all the good things through all the bad things. You never have to question their love because they show it to you in everything that they do. With that being said, always love yourself first and the right one will find you.
Thank you, my sister. And before I provide you with my final thoughts, I just want to thank this amazing panel. Ebony, as always, thank you. And Brion, you truly an inspiration. Thank you for coming on to the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mel.
Oh, anytime, my sister. Thank you. Sorry, I scared you guys to say blah, So a wise man once said that you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. And I understand that there is no such thing as a 100% drama-free relationship or person, because no two people or relationship is perfect, because everyone has their little twist or hiccup in their personality. But I do believe in healthy boundaries. And when your relationship is more pain than pleasure, then it's a red flag for you to bail out that relationship, because one that lacks respect in your relationship, which means it's time to reevaluate your partnership before it gets worse.
Yo, Mel Money, send us off.
Hey. Hey.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.